Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome back to The Truth, where today we're going to talk about the Cincinnati Bengals on my first offseason coverage. So, getting started, the Cincinnati Bengals, their season overview compared to last year, they went 16-4 last year, and then they went 8-9 this year. Now, their starting quarterback, who was really good, Joe Burrow, was injured, like a good portion. He was injured like during preseason for his calf, and then it just kept evolving and more stuff. He was injured. He was injured a lot this season. Um, it sucks that you don't have him because you kind of did go through a couple quarterbacks this season. It does suck. You will go 9-8, but I think this does teach you a lesson to build depth, build quality depth throughout this team. You have a lot of cap, but you also have a lot of needs. So it's going to be interesting to see how they do this. Um, Look, I'll say this first and foremost. I was not able to address every single position, but I did address some. The only things I didn't address was depth. Look, $61 million is a lot. So, kind of like what I said with the Bears, just be smart with your cap. You know, sign the guys who you think are going to make an impact and who are there for the future, or culture guys. Don't I would not sign guys just for as a body and kind of pay them a big chunk. I mean, of course, not a lot of teams are going to do that, but I'd really like don't do that. Be smart with your money, allocate your money really well. Um, like really work good contracts to help benefit the team, so that way you can put yourself in a good step forward for the draft. Checking out some key market values that thankfully Sport Track has. We're going to see kind of some guys they could resign, just all of that. Some guys in the future too. Oh, wrong one. Cincinnati. 2024 update. So some players that Cincinnati could go after, or Cincinnati could resign. Backup quarterback Jake Browning. That'd be really helpful. Sports Track has their market value about $5 million. That wouldn't be too bad against your cap. You'd knock out backup quarterback. I don't know if that's the first thing you go after, just because you do need to address starters. With that being said, going on to the next one, Tyler Boyd. $3 million, about $3.5 million more than Jake Browning, but he's a starter. He's a good starter for you too, and you could sign. He's 29 right now. You sign him for 3 years. He's in his 30s. You can draft after that if you want to. You'd knock out a starting receiver spot. Um, Another guy you could look at signing is Jonah Williams, right tackle for you, about $11 million. Look, you lose a tackle, you losing a starting tackle on either side of the line is detrimental. So it does suck, and it's hard to replace. Um, Next one is DJ Reader, a defensive tackle. DJ Reader is a really good defensive tackle. This is a guy I probably see them resigning. It's hard for me to see that them not going that way. Um, Look, he's going to average you about $15 million against the cap. That's a lot. That's a lot. Um, if you did resign him, though, you wouldn't have to deal with defensive tackle during the draft. And then lastly, get to T. Higgins. T. Higgins is going to cost you $18.5 million ish. Um, that's that's tough, just because it is a lot of money, but T. Higgins is also a really good receiver, especially for you down the stretch whenever Jamar Boyd goes out. You kind of have to rely on the other two receivers. T. Higgins is that guy who steps up and kind of beats that number one, other than Jamar. So there's a lot. If I were to crunch the numbers real quick, they have about $61 million in cap. You subtract 18,601, 296. Just signing T. Higgins, you have about $42 million in cap. But that also knocks out receiver spot. So now you don't have to deal with that. If you were to kind of, and this is going by re-signing your bigger guys that you need now, DJ Reader, if you were to sign him, you give up about 15 million to deal with that. So that would bring you to, just doing some quick math right now, about $27 million, $27.5 million. That really does drop your cap a lot, but you take care of two big holes in your team, and now you're sitting there being like, okay, we can breathe a little bit. You re-signed Jonah Williams. That's another about $11 million. That would bring you down to 16, a little over 16 and a half. It's about $16.6 million. You still have enough to go out and get draft and sign some free agents. Let's say you do go out and decide to resign Tyler Boyd too. That's about roughly 8 3/4, $9 million ish, somewhere around there for his market value. Now these aren't set in stone. Like you might be able to get a team friendly deal from these guys, or they might try to ask for more. But this is just their market value at the moment. So, with that being said, that kind of leaves them there. And these are also what Sports Tracks themes as kind of impactful players for the Bengals. Tyler Boyd would bring you about $7.9 million against the cap. So you still have enough to sign maybe some cheap veterans and some free agents. But that would also knock out your second receiver spot. You'd still have cornerback, tight end, and linebacker. Now, if you tried to re-sign Jake Browning, you really wouldn't have enough to go out and go draft guys. But with those three done, you still have probably one position left that you'd have to pick up via UDFA, and then you still have a little cap rollover, so you could probably get some cheap veteran deals, about $1.2 million, give or take. And then you could fill in those holes with some more experienced guys who maybe can help grow those rookies if you want to in certain positions. So you're not in a terrible situation. You're actually in a pretty good situation to where you could realistically go in the draft. If you wanted to re-sign some guys, go in the draft, get starters, and be in a good position to go attack the season as long as you draft well. The Cincinnati Bengals are in a good position to improve and get better. But with that being said, I didn't calculate any of those into the draft because you know how I like to do. If it's not rumored, if it's not highly talked about by good reputable sources, I'm not really into kind of maneuvering around with it. But getting into it, let's talk about the mock draft that I went through. So, like how I always do, just a quick breakdown. The way I have each team set up is the positions they need, and with those positions, the best players in those positions. So, kind of like who ranks think of a big board, and where all those players rank, and then I look at the positions of need for that team, and that's how I attack the big board. I don't really go best player available. I go best player available for that need for that team at a position that they lost going into this offseason, going right after the Super Bowl counting. So, with that being said, with the number one pick for the Bengals, I took Brock Bowers out of Georgia. Brock ended up falling in this draft, so this was really, really nice. Brock Bowers, he plays like a wide receiver, kind of a little bit smaller than the average height, and actually weighs less than you think. He like on tape, he looks huge. But look, no, this guy's 225, 6'3", 225. He's basically a receiver. Look, in the NFL, he's gonna have to put on more weight. That's you're not gonna have a tight end walk out 225. That's receiver weight. You need him to bulk up because he's gonna have to help block. He's gonna have to help block linebackers and kind of help block ends. So he's gonna have to weigh more. Height 6'3", that's not bad. You can work with 6'3". Good receiving threat. He's a really good route runner. Good frame. Good contested catch. And he can block too. He is an all-around tight end coming out of college. He just has to put more weight on him. He's tight end one for everybody, and that's who I took. The Bengals lose a tight end, filled up spot right up. With the next pick, I took Xavier Legette, 6'3", 227, so bigger than Brock Bowers, actually. Look, this is a guy who's really explosive. I've talked about this guy before. Pretty good route runner. His contested catch ability, his ability to go up in the air, really good. This guy just doesn't have necessarily the athleticism or the ceiling, as what people call it, that other receivers have, but still a really good receiver. Xavier Legette, that helps knock out that receiving core. And now you're sitting there with Xavier Legette, Jamar Chase, and you're looking pretty happy. Malachi Corley out of Western Kentucky. Smaller on this one. Small on this guy. 5'11", 200 pounds. The one thing you love about Malachi, he is a yards after the catch guy. When he gets the ball, he is like he's like kind of like a Brandon Ayuk after the catch. He reminds me of Zay Flowers after the catch. A guy who can make things happen. Like it gets really cool. Great balance. He's tough. He's really elusive in the open field, and he's hard to tackle. He can eat up in the slot under screen passes, stuff like that. Strong hands, downfield, good focus. He's a very what am I thinking? He doesn't have sorry. He can play on the outside if you really want him to. He'd probably have to put on a little bit more weight, kind of get a little bit bigger than 200, typically maybe near that 205, 210 range, because you do have those more physical, big corners on the outside instead of necessarily the more athletic kind of moving around corners. The only big knock on Malachi is his route running. That's kind of why he's fallen so much. He needs to work on that, but he can be that receiver for you. So with that being said, Malachi Corley, now your receiving core looks great like it did last year, and it probably won't even take a step back. You just get cheaper at the position. With the next pick, guy I've talked about before, Junior Colson, linebacker out of Michigan, 6'2", 228. Like I said before, with a lot of teams who he's fallen to, this is a guy who's going to be smart, be physical, help in the pass, disrupt the pass. A guy like that who can stop the run. Colson's a really good piece to have at a linebacking position. So, and that they do lose a starter in that. Jordan Jefferson, defensive tackle out of LSU, sitting here. He doesn't show his weight or anything, but Jordan Jefferson was kind of a key piece for that LSU defense. I know a lot of the LSU defense didn't look good last year, but to blame it on the front four or the linebacking core kind of sucks because the biggest part of that LSU defense was, one, the coordinating because it was really bad, but also the secondary, which gave up a lot of passes. But Jordan wasn't a bad piece. Now, look, he's back here for a reason, like a lot of guys, but he can stop the run. It's just getting after the pass is going to be an issue for him. But like with all defensive tackles, defensive tackle is a hard position to get immediately in the first round. Or, first year of their careers. But this is a guy you can develop who can be better. Jaquan Shepard, quarterback out of Maryland. I don't know. Yeah. 6'1", 194, a little bit taller of a corner. Look, this is a guy who you kind of It's a really good Maryland defense. Like Maryland's kind of starting to pump out some pretty good DBs. He's technical. He can get the job done. He's just like I said before with these late round picks. They are what they are. Um, Again, being said, that is kind of a position fit. Louisiana's Nathan Thomas, offensive tackle. Look, he's a guy who just like, look, you need to tackle, you need to fit in, and that's gonna round out your starting roster for the draft. And I'm not saying this is how what I predict your roster to be. I think your roster should be. This is just me saying, hey, with what's being given so far, this is how the draft felt. This is how I attack it. Um, Nevertheless, getting into the depth, first thing I was able to get was Carter Bradley. Oh, it doesn't show you here. Carter Bradley, quarterback out of South Alabama. This is a guy who is going to be a backup for you. Like, look, there's no sugarcoating or anything. He's just going to be a good backup for you for depth. Then I got Luke Raymer. This one does show it. 6'1", 225, linebacker out of Nebraska. Like Carter Bradley's is also going to be in depth for you, but it's needed. The Bengals run light. They are a very light group right now for their linebacking course, so they do need to address that. With that being said, some positions I couldn't address because there weren't enough picks. Linebacker, another linebacker, 2 guards, a receiver, and a tight end. With that being said, do I think they're going to walk out the draft without these pieces? No, they'll address a lot during this offseason. So, with that being said, this is what I think of the draft. I've kind of talked about it before on what could happen. Other than that, let me know what y'all think. This is the Cincinnati Bengals first offseason coverage. Let me know what y'all think. But thank you all for watching, and I will talk to y'all next time.